reality is it's going to be very difficult for Newcastle to replicate Man City, right?
Absolutely. I mean, basically the drawbridge has been pulled up on wealthy owners coming in and just spending freely to get the best players in the world. You know, we saw it at Chelsea at the outset with Abramovich, and then Man City came along and did it to a different level. And the FFP rules were brought in to stop owners doing the same thing. And now, obviously, one of the reasons was to stop clubs being run into massive debt. Now, if you're a Saudi prince or an Abu Dhabi sheikh, then you can afford to spend what you like. But if Newcastle fans either think that from next season onwards they're going to be able to sign the best players in the world, then it's not going to happen. They have to balance the books. And clearly, you know, they're going to be able to spend more money than under Mike Ashley because they'll be able to generate more commercial income. They'll build the club up, hopefully. But if people think that they're going to go out there with a shopping list of the best 5 players in the world and sign, you know, X, Y, and Z, it's not going to happen. And that is why.
Sorry, Mark, before you said if people think that, if Newcastle fans think that, that's what you said. I'm quoting verbatim.
Yeah.
There's one thing I've learned on social media, and be prepared for the backlash. Newcastle fans, like most, hate to be patronized. I was shocked I'm always shocked in this country how every time the national news media bring up Newcastle fans, it's always like, well, the passion of the fans, the Geordies, the Geordie army, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes they make it seem like they're a bunch of deluded idiots. That was under Ashley, and that is now with this money. Do you really get a sense that fans, I mean, I haven't looked at the local paper in Newcastle, which I think is called the Chronicle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or I haven't hung out on Newcastle fan forums, like I'm sure you have in researching the story. Are there people saying that? They're like, oh, look, now all of a sudden this guy's richer than Mansour, so we're going to go and do this and that? I mean, are they deluded, or are they just saying, hey, look, we're glad that Mike Ashley's gone. Anybody's better than Ashley, and this guy's got a few bob, so we're not going to be insolvent.
Well, I wouldn't say they're deluded, but I think that almost 15 years of being owned by Mike Ashley has left Newcastle fans so desperate for an owner that will spend money. But every football fan wants their owner to spend money, but it's not as simple as spending money. They have to be able to balance the books and not spend more than they earn. Now, Newcastle right now, they don't earn very much. The commercial revenue is tiny compared to most Premier League clubs. It's barely grown under Mike Ashley, so they can develop that and then they can spend more on the back of that. But yeah, I do think that there's a sense of maybe it's misinformed supporters who believe that the day has come where they can compete like they did in the 1990s with, you know, when they signed Alan Shearer, Faustino Asprilla. It's just not going to happen.
The good thing, well, I think they will be very clever and try to target players out of contract, because that would be easier with financial fair play. Even if you give a big signing on fee and big wages, it's easier to put that in your books than just go and spend 120 million on someone on top of the wages and the agent fees and etc. But the issue stays the same. I don't know if Dries Mertens or Edinson Cavani would want to go to Newcastle at this stage of their career when they can have one last big contract somewhere. The other thing is, the other funny thing is that they literally have every agent from everywhere in the world calling to try to sell their players, because right now the only club with money, or at least we potentially can spend money and a lot of money in this current situation, is them, or at least that's what a lot of agents believe. So you've got, from what I was told, and it's quite funny, you've got pretty much people with big players, and that's fair enough, making contact and this and that and placing themselves and the players, but also agents like you and me who have rubbish second lower tier players who are still trying to call and say like, hey, what about my boy? You know, he could do a good job for you. It must be incredible being in the process of buying the club now and also trying to think about what you could go next in terms of recruitment.
This happened at Man City at the outset under Sheikh Mansour. They used certain agents, and they made some big mistakes in the first 2 or 3 years of Abu Dhabi ownership, because they allowed themselves, they called it their accelerated acquisition strategy, where they had to sign a lot of players quickly to make them raise to a different level, but they spent a lot of money, they wasted a lot of money. People like Roque Santa Cruz, they paid way over the odds, he barely played. And
well, he's such a nice guy.
Exactly, but this is mistakes are made, and Newcastle...
Roque Santa Cruz is never a mistake, because he has class. Mention somebody else. Just don't mention Roque Santa Cruz.
Robinho.
Thank you.
There you go. Cool. But unless Newcastle have the smart people in place that know straight away what mistakes can be made, if they're gonna bring in people that aren't familiar with football, they risk being exploited for 2 or 3 years before they'll have to make their mistakes in public.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.